In the dressing room, Sir Anthony Evans playlist. The words about the door of the theater were a meter high. On the wall, there was a big picture of Sir Anthony at the piano. Hundreds of people were waiting outside the ticket office. It was Sir Anthony's 18th birthday concert and everybody wanted a ticket. I had a special ticket because I was a newspaper reporter. I wanted to talk to the famous pianist before his concert. I showed my ticket to the doorman and went into the theater. Then I walked upstairs to the dressing rooms. On my way upstairs, I threw about the famous pianist. I was a little afraid. My mouth was dry and my hands were shaking. I arrived outside the dressing room. There was a big gold star on the door. I knocked and the tall man opened it. It was very old, but his eyes were blue and bright. He was wearing black trousers and a beautiful white shirt. He had a lot of straight, silvery hair. He looked just like his picture on the wall of the theater. My name's Sally Hill. I began. The man saw my notebook and smiled at me. Don't tell me you are a reporter? Which newspaper do you work for? The Sunday Times, sir. A very good newspaper. Come in and sit down. Ask you questions. We were young once, wasn't we, Linda? But of course, that was a long time ago. He turned to the tall woman who was standing in the concert. He smiled at me with friendly brown eyes. So, this is Linda Evans. I thought, what a nice face she has. She looks like a farmer's wife. I was not afraid any more. I sat down and opened my new book. Tell me about yourself, please, Sir Anthony. Did you come from a musician family? Did you start to learn a piano when you were 3, like Mozart? The famous pianist smiled. No, my dear. I am the first musician in my family, and I was 14 years old before I touched a piano for the first time. He saw the surprise of on my face. We have a little time before my concert. I will tell you my story. It's a strange story, but every word of it is true. You see, I left school when I was 13. Everybody called me Tony in those days. I worked on the farm. It was an exciting story and he told it well. At first, I tried to write everything down in my notebook. Then the pen fell from my hand and I just listened. I was lost in Sir Anthony's wonderful story. He told me about an old school behind a high wall in a dirty street. It was a broken glass on top of the wall. The schoolyard was very small as he spoke. Pictures came into my mind. I saw a little boy called Tony Evans playing football with an old teen. Chapter 2. A poor boy. The teacher's name was Mr. Gray. He was gray like his name. He was old and gray and tired. Everything about him was gray. Gray suit, gray shirt, gray hair, and a long, thin gray face. When he smiled, the children saw his long gray teeth. But he did not often smile. Mr. Gray did not enjoy his job. He did not like children. Why does you work here? One of the children asked on one day. He doesn't like us. But he likes the long school holidays, said Tony. The other children laughed. But Tony was not a clever boy. He was big and slow and silent. He did not enjoy his lessons. Usually he just sat at his desk and waited quiet for the 4 o'clock to come when he could go home. But Tuesday mornings were different because Tuesday was a music day. Every Tuesday morning, an old lady called Mrs. Locke came to the school. Mrs. Locke played the piano and the children sang. He was not a very good pianist, but he liked children and he enjoyed her work. He knew a lot of her songs too. Every Tuesday, her fat little fingers flew like a bird up and down the keys of the piano. The children sang like birds too. Then 12 o'clock came. Mrs. Locke says goodbye and locked up the piano for another week. Tony did not often hear music. His family was poor, and the poor people did not often hear music. There was on TV or radio in those days. There were concerts in the town, of course, but poor people did not go to concerts. Sometimes an Italian street musician came to town. He had a little piano on the wheels, and a poor thin monkey with a set on the top of it. The people came out of their houses to listen to his music. Then the monkey went round with a little tin cup. "Give us a penny," said the musician. But when the monkey came back, the tin cup was always empty. The musician shook his head and pushed. There was 6 children in Evan's family, and Tony was the oldest. They lived in a very small house at the end of the long gray street. The toilet was outside, and the yard there was no bathroom. Everybody washed in the kitchen on Saturday evenings. Everybody in the family had a bath one after another in an old tin bed in the front of the fire. It took all evening. Every Monday, Mrs. Evans washed all the family's clothes in the tin bath. But the Evans were clean and they had enough to eat. Tony did not feel poor because all his friends were poor too. In those days, poor people usually left school when they were 13. Most of Tony's friends found jobs in shops or factories in the town. Tony did not want to work in a shop or factory, but he needed a job because his family needed the money. A few days after his 13th birthday, Tony left school too. He began to look for a job, but he was unlucky. The factory did not want him. The shops did not want him too. Then his mother thought, what about farming? One hot summer afternoon, she decided to take her son to a farm outside of the town. I worked on a Miss Wood's farm when I was young, she told Tony. Then I met your father and we moved to the town. But I enjoyed the farm work, and I think you will like it too. I wrote to my Miss Wood last week and asked him to give you a job on the farm. Then will be better than the factory. It's a good idea. Chapter 3. A Farmer's Boy. Tony and his mother got on a bus in the middle of the town. At first, they drove through streets of the small gray houses. Then the bus left the town and drove along to country road. The bus stopped in every village. Tony saw green fields and small quiet villages. Every house had a garden. The smell of the flowers came in through the open windows of the bus. At last, the bus stopped. Tony could see a river and an old bridge. A small road ran across the bridge, through the fields, and over a hill. Come on, Tony, said his mother. They got out of the bus and walked 2 kilometers in the hot sun. There were white and yellow flowers at the side of the road. Tony did not know their names. He wanted to know more about them. He wanted to know more about the trees, too. There were no flowers or trees in his street. He looked at the cows in the fields. I've never seen a real cow, he said to himself. He watched Helen move very slowly through the long green grass that looked big and quiet. Tony and his mother arrived at the farmer house and walked through the farmer yard. Chickens were looking for food. A fat white cat sat on a wall and watched them with sleepy eyes. Mr. Wood came to the door and spoke to Tony's mother. "Hello, Betty. It's nice to see you again. Thank you for your letter. How are you?" "Are you okay for anything?" They talked together like old friends. Tony stood at the door. He felt lost and uncomfortable, but the farmer smiled at him. "Is this your son, Betty?" he asked. "Yes, this is Anthony, but we call him Tony at home. He left school 2 weeks ago. He's a good boy and he's very strong. Please give him a job." "Mr. Wood, we need the money. We've got 6 children, you know." "As you can see, he's very strong." The farmer looked at Tony. "How old are you, boy?" he asked. 13, sir." "Do you like the country?" "Yes, sir," said Tony. "Would you like to work for me, Tony?" asked Mr. Wood. "Would you like to be a farm boy?" do you like be a farm boy? Tony thought about the factory and the shops. The shops were bad, but the factory was worse. When people came out of the factory in the evening, their face looked white and ill. Nothing can be worse than that, he thought. He looked into the farmer's smiling red face. Yes, sir, he said. Yes, please. His mother was right. Tony was a good, strong boy, and he worked very hard for Mr. Wood. The old farmer did not pay him much money. Tony ate his meals in the kitchen, and he slept in a little room at the top of the famous farmer house. But the farmer was kind to him and thought him a lot. Mr. Wood had no sons. He had one daughter. Her name was Linda, and she was a year younger than Tony. Mr. Wood loved Linda dearly, but he wanted a son very much. He was like a father to Tony. Tony was happy at the end of every day. His back was tired and his leg hurt, but he slept like a baby. He ate Mrs. Wood's good country food. He drank a lot of milk. Soon he needed new clothes. He sent his old clothes home for his brothers. He sent his family money too. Sometimes Tony visited his family. He enjoyed those visits, but he was always happy to live again. I am a country boy now, he thought. In the school holidays, Pin and his brother John came to the farm. Pin was 17 and John was 16. But they were both still at school. Their father had a large shoe shop in the town. He wanted them to go to college and learn to be businessmen. But the boys spent all their holidays on the Mr. Wood's farm. I want to be a farmer, said Pin. That's right, said John. Farming is the best job in the world. But you just come here in the summer, said Tony. It isn't always summer, you know. The sun doesn't always shine. Farmers work hard in the winter too. It's hard, dirty work. But you like it, said John, and he was right. Tony liked his job very much. Chapter 4. An Old Piano. One hot summer afternoon, Tony, John, and Pin were cutting the long grass. The sun was hot, and they were tired. Mr. Wood came into the field. Now, boys, he said, I have a job for you. He always had a job for us, said Pin, very quietly. The other boys smiled. The farmer liked to keep them busy. They walked through an old wooden building near the farmer house. Now, said Mr. Wood, my new car will arrive here next week. I want him building for a garage. Get the rubbish out of the building, then clean it really well. I want to keep the car in it. What shall we do with the rubbish, Mr. Wood? Asked Pin. Get rid of it. Of course, answered the farmer. Now, stop asking questions, young Pin. I am a busy man. He walked away. The three boys opened the doors of the building. They looked at the rubbish. Then they looked at each other. "This is going to take a long time," said Tony. He went to the back of the building. He saw something behind a lot of old boxes. It was very big. "What's this?" asked Tony. "Is it a cardboard?" asked Pin. John came and moved some of the boxes. "It isn't a cardboard," he said in surprise. "It's an old piano." The piano was made of a beautiful dark brown wood. Tony took off his shirt and cleaned the wood with it. He saw brightly colored birds, flowers, and leaves. They shone like stars. The dark, dirty building. Tony opened the piano. He looked at the keys. "We can't get rid of it," he said. "We really can't." He felt an old broken chain and sat down at the piano. His fingers touched the keys. He closed his eyes, half forgotten, music dancing through his mind. His fingers began to move. They moved up and down the keys. He began to play an old song. He was suddenly very happy. "I can play the piano," he thought. "Nobody taught me, but I might tell my fingers what to do, and I can make music." His thin friends listened. "That's beautiful," said John. "What is it?" "I don't know," said Tony. They heard a noise behind them. Linda Wood was standing at the door. He was a tall, thin girl with long, soft brown hair. He was not beautiful, but he had a big, kind brown eyes and a sweet smile. She was smiling now, and she was singing very quietly. Tony heard her and stopped playing. He stood up. His face was red and he felt hot and uncomfortable. "Don't stop, Tony," said Linda. "I've finished," said Tony shortly. He closed the piano. Linda came into the building. "Look," he said. "Mother has sent you cakes and milk. He asked me to bring them." Mrs. Wood was a very good cook. The cakes were still warm. They all ate and drank. Linda looked at the piano. "Who taught you to play the piano, Tony?" he asked. Tony looked down at his dirty old shoes. "I can't play the piano," he said. "Yes, you can," said Linda. "I heard you. I have piano lessons at school, but I can't play like you. I like that song. It's called Green Fields. I've got the music at school, but I can't play it. It's too difficult for me. Do you want to borrow it?" "I can't read music," said Tony. "We didn't have music lessons at my school." He looked unhappy and thoughtful. "Music," thought Tony. He remembered the street musician with his little monkey. Then he thought about Mrs. Lark. He remembered Ruth's wonderful Tuesday mornings, and he smiled. We sang a little of Tuesday mornings. That's all," he said. He stooped and looked at the piano. "I must have it," he said to himself. "I will ask Mr. Wood, At 7 o'clock, Tony washed in the cold water and put on his clean shirt. Then he went to the kitchen with Pin and John. They sat down at the big kitchen table and Mrs. Wood put the food on the 3 hot plates. Then she went to have supper with Mr. Wood and Linda. Tony ate his meal, meat and potatoes, and drank 2 cups of a strong sweet tea. Then he had 3 small cakes and apple. He was always hungry. He washed his plate and his cup and put them away. Now, he thought, it's time. He got up and went to the door. Where are you going? Asked John. I have an idea. I want to ask Mr. Wood about the piano, said Tony. Pianos cost a lot of money. We must tell him about this one. Then he can decide what to do with it. He knocked at the door of the sitting room. Come on, come in, said the farmer. He was reading his Farmer's Weekly. Mr. Wood was mending a hole in Linda's school dress. Linda herself was doing her homework at the table in the corner. Please, Mr. Wood, he began. Tony, there's an old piano in this building. I don't want to know. You don't want to know what? Said Tony. But the piano isn't rubbish, sir. It's rubbish, boy. Take it away. Get rid of it. I want that building for my new car. Now, go away. I'm tired. I've had a busy day and I want to read my newspaper. But, began Tony again. You can do that. I don't want to know, said Mr. Wood. Go away. He shook his newspaper angrily. Yes, Mr. Wood, said Tony. He went out and closed the door behind him. He came back into the kitchen. Listen, can you help me? He said to Pin and John. Mr. Wood doesn't want that old piano. He says I can have it. He wants the building for his new car. I can have the piano if I want it. And, oh yes, I want it very much. But where can I put it? That's easy, said Pin. We can put it on Mr. Wood's lorry. He can take the piano to your house. Your family will love it. You've never seen our family, said Tony. It's very small and there are 7 people living in it. We can place the piano there, sell it, buy something nice with the money. I don't want money, said Tony. I want a piano. How can I tell them? He thought. How can I tell them how I feel about it? He looked at his hands. He wanted to feel the black and the white keys under his fingers again. He wanted to hear the music in his mind. What's happened to me? He thought. Pin looked at the clock. That's late, he said. And I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed and we can think about your piano tomorrow.